Hello and welcome to episode number 23 of View from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week, we review the Premier League action from the weekend where the title race is well and truly back on after City and Spurs both win and Liverpool drop points at West Ham. Norwich come out on top in the battle at the top of the Championship and Ipswich look doomed for relegation. Coming up the other way could be Luton after another win to extend their lead at the top of League One. In League Two is the magic fading at Macclesfield for Sol Campbell after back-to-back defeats. We also have a predictions update and we look at the movers from the January transfer window, which, to be honest, that shouldn't take too long. So let's get started with episode number 23 of View from the Sideline podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 23 of View from the Sideline podcast. Chris here and Rich is here as well.
Good evening. How we doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Yourself, mate?
Yeah, can't complain, yeah. Good to go.
Good to go. So we will go head straight in to the teaser, which I've got this week for Rich.
I've been looking forward to this one, Chris.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I got one right, so I'm looking forward to this.
This is if you one of those where you might be able to guess your way to the answer. But this week we have which two Premier League clubs failed to score in this season's FA Cup? So that is which two Premier League clubs failed to score in this season's FA Cup? So
Okay.
just two teams from the Premier League, and then hopefully you don't get it.
Well, I can give you one right now.
Well, I don't want to know right now.
Right. Okay.
So
I'll have a think about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll go into the Premier League review, and we'll start at Wembley with the Tottenham Newcastle game. Yes, it's very jammy at the moment, Rich. Very jammy.
I was wondering whether you're going to actually back up your statement from a few days ago.
I just held back a bit on this one, just because it's just the amount of late goals that you tend to be scoring this season, and the goal on Saturday against Newcastle. Newcastle's goalkeeper, he doesn't deserve to be in goal after that, to be honest with you. It was awful attempt at a save. And it literally, I'm there on my phone or watching the game, and it goes past 80 minutes, and Tottenham are drawing. And I know full well they're going to score. And I message my dad every time, and I say, look, I bet you Tottenham score within the last 5 minutes, and they always do. It's jammy.
Okay, now I'll give an educated view on this game.
The game itself was actually quite good, to be honest with you. Newcastle.
Yeah, I thought it was a good game. I don't buy this whole lucky thing at all. I think if you go back,
people agree. That's what I mean. You look on social media.
Well, they're uneducated. If you go back 3 or 4 games when Harry Kane got injured, and Spurs' season was over, and we went out of 2 cup competitions in the space of like 3 or 4 days, and then Dele Alli got injured, and then Son was away. I mean, that's worked out pretty well for Spurs that they got knocked out, to be honest, but we're still there. And the fact that Liverpool have dropped points over the last, or City have dropped points over the last month, 6 weeks, Spurs are in the title race. However you want to spin it, Spurs are in the title race.
Yeah,
and they have got, since Harry Kane got injured, Spurs have won all 3 league games, so 3 games in a row they've won, and they were games that they probably weren't expected to win. Well, with a full strength team out on paper, they were probably expected to win, but with Kane out, with Ali out, with Son away, with Llorente not in great form, Spurs have won the last 3 games, and they have scored winning goals in the last 10 minutes. But that, I don't think that's luck. I think what it shows, especially as being a Spurs fan, what it shows for me this year, which is different with Spurs, is they've got that mentality to keep going. So when if I take you back, Chris, Fergie time, were Man? If you say yes to this, there's something wrong. Were United lucky that they would score in Fergie time? No, they weren't. They scored because they kept going, they kept attacking, they kept the pressure on, and that is no difference with what Spurs are doing at the moment. And I'll admit it was a horrendous error from the keeper. But if Spurs aren't putting the pressure on, if Spurs aren't getting into positions to have chances, to have shots on goal, they're never going to score. But they are getting into those positions from minute 1 to minute 90.
I suppose, yeah, it does show.
I will put my soapbox away.
It shows the resilience that you have, and 95% of the people when Harry Kane got injured, they did probably say or think that you would struggle without him, and in fact, you've kept winning games. And just a quick one on Llorente. What do you think is going to happen to him? Obviously, when Kane comes back, I assume that he will resume his place.
Well, I mean,
he
didn't start on Saturday. So
no, he came on, didn't he, for Lucas?
Yeah, he did, and he set up the goal. There was a bit of suspicion about handball, but he gets a nudge from the defender, so I don't really think you could say it was intentional. But, I mean, Newcastle fans may give a different opinion, but the issue at Spurs is no one is going to replace Harry Kane. No matter who you sign, they are not going to be a first-choice striker. So I think you then have to weigh up what sort of backup striker you need. Do Spurs really need another centre forward when they've got Son, when they've got Dele Alli, when they've got Lucas Moura? I'm not 100% convinced they need an out and out striker, especially the way Son's playing at the moment. But I think Llorente does a job for Spurs. Yeah, he misses some chances, but all strikers do. It's just because he misses chances and he gets limited game time. Yeah. So I think it's amplified a bit more. But just the two things about that game, we can't forget that Newcastle just came off beating Man City.
Yeah.
So they're not. Some league positions can not always tell the real story. I think Newcastle are a decent side. Like I say, they beat City. So it was a tough game for Spurs. And the one thing that really I find positive from being a Spurs fan is historically our goal difference is always pretty poor. But I know take Liverpool and City out of the equation because their goal difference is just mental. Yeah. But our goal difference is at 27, which for Spurs at this time of the year, this time of the season, is actually a really positive goal difference. And if you take into effect that goal difference can sometimes be worth that extra point, if you look at what United's goal difference, what Arsenal, what Chelsea's is, having that a plus 27 goal difference is almost worth that extra point at the moment.
You've got 7 points as well. That probably helps.
Yeah.
But
I can see where you're coming from, but I don't agree with the phrase lucky.
One thing I think we both will agree on is your best player this season. It has been Son, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think he's on fire. He doesn't stop running, and he never gives
everything. 100% every
game. What Spurs as a team have adopted, but you think sort of Watford at home, we're 1-0 down, 2 goals in the last 10 minutes. And then obviously Newcastle at the weekend. Then we've got Leicester at home, and there was 4 games. There was the 4 games. Leicester is the last one on paper that you would have thought Spurs should be winning.
Yeah.
And the way Liverpool are at the moment, I mean, City are coming the other way. But the way Liverpool are playing at the moment, if we get a win on Sunday against Leicester, you just don't know.
Any news on Kane when he's back?
I know he's been posting workout videos online. I believe it'll be before the end of March. I think Dele Alli is the same as well, but I'm not sure we need him. I'm not sure we need him, to be honest. But Well, you don't know, do you?
Anyway,
But
we'll move on pretty quickly, and we'll probably move pretty quickly over this game as well. It's just the Brighton Watford game, 0-0. This is how bad the game was, really. So after the game, Watford's social media account tweeted they couldn't choose a man of the match, so they were going to choose limb of the match of Foster. So you could choose from 4 of his limbs that you could choose for man of the match or limb of the match. So I think that really sums up the game itself. It wasn't a
well,
bad game, but
you just have to look at the stats going into that. Watford one win in their last 5. Brighton no wins in their last 5.
yeah.
I think it had 0-0 written all over it.
Anyway, Burnley Southampton game. This one had a few controversies. Obviously, the first one is Barnes. He gets taken out by the keeper. So how Burnley didn't get a penalty for that? I know they showed it on Match of the Day a few times, different angles, and I can't see how he's not got a penalty for that in the first half. It's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stonewall penalty. I don't think there's been many more stonewall than that this season. But
it's odd, really, how it wasn't given. It just didn't even look like that. He would have died. It's just strange.
But there's kind of two bits to this. So if we jump ahead to the end where Burnley are then awarded a pretty contentious penalty at the end of the game. So, and also you've got there was a lot of talk about, because Barnes got booked for simulation, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
and then he remonstrated with the linesman, which I think under normal circumstances, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on that? I mean, do you think that he wasn't given a second yellow card because the ref doubted at the time whether he was right or not? But at the same time, do you think he awarded the controversial penalty?
Do you think it was in his mind? I think, I think that it's in his mind. That the problem is we don't really know what referees do at halftime. From what I'm aware, they don't get to see any sort of replays or anything. So I don't think he would have.
No, I agree with that. I'm sure I've heard it that they're not allowed to watch any coverage.
Yeah, and I don't know, but so I know at some grounds they show replays on big screens if they've got them. I don't think that really helps, to be honest with you, but I would definitely say that the penalty that he didn't give was more of a penalty than what the one that he did give. So,
but the one he did give it. I mean, it's handball, but how he's meant to get his arm out of the way?
Crouch wins the header, doesn't he? And then good to see Peter Crouch back in the Premier League, though. Say that. It's one of those. If VAR, that's the thing. If VAR was in there, I still think that it would have been given, just because it's hard. This one.
Yeah, maybe, but so my view on it is that I think referees are that drilled in what they do that they must have almost certainty with the decisions they give. How they can have almost certainty, I'm not sure. So I personally go on the side that I don't think he gave the penalty because of what happened in the first half. The one that puzzles me more is why you've got in the referee's view, he's got an opinion on simulation. So in his view, Ashley Barnes has dived, so that's a yellow card. And by the rules of the game, you don't know what was said exactly, but if you're going like that at a linesman, or if you're doing that to the referee, that should be a booking as well.
Yeah.
So the one that puzzles me more is why he didn't give him a second yellow. Was it because he wasn't sure whether he dived or not? That's the one that puzzles me a bit more. But it's a shame. I mean, I think it's not a bad point for Saints, to be honest.
I just think they'll be gutted that they didn't manage to hold on.
Yeah, but fair play to the Saints manager, Haffenhurtle, or however you say his name.
Good guess.
I think he came out after the game and he didn't say it directly, but he sort of indicated that he thought a draw was a fair result.
Yeah.
And I think what people are reading from that is that he's saying that the first one was definitely a penalty. I mean, I've even heard some people say that the keeper should have been sent off. I'm not sure about that because this is it a triple jeopardy rule or something?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
If they make an effort to play the ball, but I'm on a bit of a goal difference theme today. Saints' goal difference, although it's a negative 15. But if you look at all the other teams in and around them, it's the best apart from Newcastle in the bottom 6. So again, that could, although it's a negative, it could prove important come the end of the season. Yeah,
maybe, but yeah, it was a game of. I think the only person that's going to know is the referee at the end of the day, and with guidelines in place, they're not going to come out and say how they.
Well, no, but that's there's always a call that referees should, but anyway, we'll move on.
Okay, we'll move on to the Chelsea game. Well, a lot better since we last spoke. Obviously, because our last podcast we did was last Tuesday, so we luckily aren't going to go into too much detail about the 4-0 loss to Bournemouth. Less said about that, the better, I think. But
I think sorry to interrupt you. My view on this, and I'm not going to say Chelsea were lucky, but how did Chelsea? This was a win-win situation for Chelsea coming off the back of the 4-0 defeat at Bournemouth. Because Huddersfield, and I really like Huddersfield. I think they're a good football club. They're just not good enough for the Premier League this season, and their defence is absolutely awful. So I, to be honest with you, I'm not hugely impressed that Chelsea won 5-0.
I don't think it's the score. The score.
No, I mean,
really
I'm not Higuain's greatest fan, but I thought he played well. His second goal was a good goal. For me, I sum the two games up. So you've got Chelsea play Bournemouth and Huddersfield. They come out of it with 3 points and only a +1 goal difference. I'm really on the goal difference tonight. I don't know why.
That's what I mean. It's not. I don't think it doesn't really. Beating Huddersfield. No disrespect to Huddersfield. It's not. They're bottom of the league. You're at home. We would have expected to win that one. Either way of what happened on the Wednesday before, but I don't think it covers any cracks of what happened there. But I heard after the Bournemouth game, Sarri got all the players together and he told all the backroom staff to leave, and he was in there with the players for 45 minutes before they went. So I don't know what was said.
But you hear this a lot. The same thing happened after the Arsenal game where he came out and said it's hard to motivate these players. Against Bournemouth, it's hard to motivate these players.
The thing that Bournemouth game,
I don't understand it.
We just switched off. It was exactly like the Arsenal game. We just didn't start off in the right manner, and unfortunately, at the moment, it just seems to be when Hazard doesn't play well, we suffer from that. And I'll say this, as I'm not afraid to say it, but sometimes, I think we rely on him too much, and the fact is that would it be better if he wasn't there? Then maybe the rest of the team would start picking up some of the weight, because I feel at the moment there's a lot on his shoulders, and
all the talk in the press at the moment is that he's made up his mind and he's off. Apparently, from what I'm reading today, I'm 100%
confident that he'll leave in the summer. I'm not going to say that he'll stay. He's got his own ambitions of playing probably for Real Madrid.
I'm so tempted to ask you the question I spoke to you about earlier in the week, Chris, but I don't think we've got time for your answer. But I will ask, for the purpose of the listeners, if you can give us a brief answer. That you stated categorically that you feel Chelsea currently have the setup and players to replace Hazard if he was to leave, which I disagree with.
Yeah, I think give Hudson-Odoi more of a chance. I know he's young. He's not going to, he doesn't compare to what Hazard is at the moment. But you've also got to remember we got Pulisic coming to join the team, in the summer, and no doubt that they will sign someone else as well. But I think we've got the cover there within the team. I just think because he's our best player, that he's not going to get. They're not going to not pick him. So anyway, the game itself, on Saturday was good. We still looked a bit shaky at the back at times. We changed it a bit. Rudiger didn't play. You play Christensen instead. Higuain, it's the best that we've seen him play so far in a Chelsea shirt. And like I said, Hazard played well, which I think helped us as well. But I think it's a game we should have won anyway. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely, they should have won. I think they're in a proper dogfight now. I think with Chelsea, or with Arsenal and United. I think for that fourth spot. So
very interesting.
It'd be interesting to see how it pans out.
I saw that they did a small interview with Ian Wright, and he was suggesting that maybe Arsenal try, and he was saying that he thinks Arsenal's best way of getting into the Champions League is through winning the Europa League. So,
it probably is. I would put Arsenal third out of those three teams to get in the Champions League.
It's going to be close.
I'd pick. I personally fancy United, the form they're in, but I would pick Chelsea and United over Arsenal. We don't
play. We play Man United like third from last of our games, I think, this season. So that could be crucial in that game, but we'll see what happens between now and then. There's a lot to play for still, so we'll move on to the Palace Fulham game. Fulham, for me, I don't know what it is about them, but they're just not. They just don't. When they're defending, they just always look like they're going to concede goals. But one thing for Palace now. I won't go too much into this because we'll probably talk about it in a bit later. But obviously, Palace now signing Batshuayi from Chelsea. Do they have that player that they can rely on up front now? Obviously, we'll probably push Zaha more out wide than what he's used to. But it'll be good to see what Batshuayi can do there. Obviously, he's recalled from Valencia.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I know we'll talk about it more later on, but my notes on this one, I think Fulham are down. I think that out of Huddersfield themselves and Cardiff, I think they're the best equipped side going forward.
Yeah.
Because I think they've got a Mitrovic, whereas the other two haven't got anyone like that. Fulham's biggest problem is their defensively, they are all over the place.
It's just like they don't even train together sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Batshuayi joining for Palace is a real positive. The one thing I took out of that game, and it may surprise everybody to hear it, but I thought Benteke played pretty well.
He did have a good game.
I do wonder whether that's Batshuayi joining. I mean, his overhead kick that smashed against the bar, if that had gone in, that would have just been phenomenal. And I know it's sort of he could have slipped over and bicycle kicked it and not meant it, because that's how it goes for Benteke.
Yeah.
But I thought he played pretty well, and I thought he sort of showed glimpses of what he was like when he was at Villa and everyone was after him. So maybe he's turned the corner.
He's one of those players, isn't he, that he did so well when he was at Villa, but then just never really got the move, and then he just didn't really.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I thought he played all right. I think Palace will be safe. Palace will be absolutely fine, but I do worry a bit for Fulham purely because of their defence. But I don't think that was a overall surprising result.
Next up, your favourite team, Rich, Everton versus Wolves.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I've got a few comments on this one. But so I mean, Everton are playing as we speak, so they're playing Man City. Man City are currently 1-0 up, so they are back to the top of the table. But I mean, I don't think many people would have expected Everton to get anything from the game. But I heard a lot over the weekend about well, from Everton fans on various football phone-in shows and things like that, and sort of comments in the paper. And I just wanted to kind of give my view on it, because I don't want to be labelled as like an Everton basher, but I'm going to bash them. I'm going to
not
bash
welcome in
them.
Liverpool. I've heard there's
Well,
picture of your
yeah.
face on the
Well,
sign.
no,
It
I'm
says,
welcome in Liverpool. I'm just not welcome on the blue side.
in the blue side.
But
Yeah.
but I so just to give you some notes, right? So Everton, this just speaks volumes to me. I'm on the goal difference again. So we're over halfway through the season. Everton's goal difference is 0. So they've scored exactly the same as they've conceded, which you'd obviously know from it being 0. It's boring. Everton's last 5 games, they've lost, they've won, they've lost, they've won, they've lost. So the 2 games that they won are Huddersfield and Bournemouth. Now, no disrespect to those two teams,
away. Were they? I think they were both away as well.
but you would expect Everton to win those games. If the size of the club, the money they've invested, you would expect Everton to win those games. But the games they've lost, Leicester, Southampton, and Wolves. Now, again, no disrespect to either of those teams, but I would put those 5 teams in a cluster and say they are all very, very similar.
Yeah.
So, but they are so inconsistent. And I'm just, I know we're
no. Yeah,
I know we're short
of,
we're probably short of time, so I won't dwell on it too much, because we have got other games to go through. But if I take you through the starting 11 for Everton, right? Pickford in goal. Now, in my opinion, if Chelsea had gone out in the summer and paid 50 million for him, and I was an Everton fan, I would be rubbing my hands. Now, take the World Cup out of the equation, because he was awesome at the World Cup. He was one of the best keepers there, and
because he had a good defence in front of him.
Yeah, there's no denying he's a brilliant shot stopper, and he celebrates a save like he scored a goal, which I find hilarious. But he, in my opinion, I'm probably going to get shot down for this. I don't think he's in the top 5 or 6 keepers in the Premier League. Personally,
agreed.
I don't think he is, but he's England's number 1.
I don't think he's in. I personally, I wouldn't say by form at the moment. I wouldn't say he's.
No, but he probably isn't. But look at the back 4, Leighton Baines. In his day, Leighton Baines was a brilliant left back. He was in everybody's fantasy team, as was most of the Everton back 4.
Because he used to score penalties and free kicks,
but he's not the player he used to be. Kurt Zouma. I mean,
hey, careful now.
No,
you're treading.
There's probably a reason why he's not playing for Chelsea. Chelsea's defence is probably their weakest aspect of their team. If he was that well thought of, he wouldn't be out on loan. He's an okay player. Michael Keane, when he was at Burnley, everybody wanted him. He's gone to Everton, and he has just been so disappointed for the money they paid for him.
A pundit saying about him actually at the weekend, saying that they thought that since he joined Everton, he's actually gone.
Yeah, he was in the England squad, and this is just my own opinion on these players. Seamus Coleman, he's probably he's the best. He's not the same, but he's the best in that back 4 by a mile for me. So then your midfield, they've got Davis at the sort of the holding midfielder at the back of a diamond. He's an okay player, but he's not proven enough that you can say that he's a consistent Premier League level or not. Theo Walcott. Now, in his day, he was a very, very good player, and he's the one person that I've heard the Everton fans say about they do not understand why he was in the starting 11. So say what you want about Walcott, but he's almost, for me, he should be on his way to the MLS. I think he's at that stage.
He just hasn't got any better since. Can you remember when he scored the hat trick? He's probably only about in his
mid-20s, isn't he? I don't know how
30
old he is, but
he's 30.
There you go. Well, he's quite a way off the MLS.
Remember when he scored that hat trick?
Yeah, I do.
Croatia,
yeah,
and then everyone was saying that he was going to be the next David Beckham, and it turned out he was.
he showed glimpses at Arsenal that he was so good, but he's just never delivered.
He's just pace. That's all he is. He
Yeah.
doesn't finish chances. He just
And then Gomez in the middle. I mean, he's a good player.
He's
I
alright.
don't
He's probably
really,
one of the better people they've signed recently.
I don't really have any fault with him. Sigurdsson. Now, if there's a more frustrating player in the Premier League, I'm not sure who it is. He can be so good. He can be such a good player. But then I find other games he just goes missing, and he's almost non-existent. Richarlison. Now.
He should have stayed at Watford.
The writing was on the wall. The writing was on the wall at Watford when he went. Didn't he? He went something crazy, like nearly a year without scoring or something like that. I don't. Maybe not a year, but and he's doing exactly the same for Everton. And Tucson up front. I mean, Mr. Silva, give me a call. I mean, honestly, I will give you something more than he does. And Everton really frustrate me. They really frustrate me. And when this summed it up, this isn't really football related, but what summed it up for me is we were watching Match of the Day on Saturday night, and Jodie, my wife's comment about the Everton game was that their manager's pretty good looking, and that was almost her summary of the game.
The big question we all have, Rich. Was it you that planted the cat on the pitch? You know,
that was the most exciting thing.
Scare the Everton fans and players.
It was so funny because it gave Everton fans all the jokes about it gave the Wolves defence a more of a run around than our players did, and I've read talk about Everton, like he wants more investment and he wants to buy more players because it's a project,
he won't get the money because he's not. They're not.
And he's not there yet with his signings and stuff. And I just think, and I don't know whether it's true or not, but I heard Sam Allardyce had a bit of a dig to say, well, you sacked me. And at the same stage in my Everton managerial career, I'd actually performed better than he had. And I know he's a new manager and he's just come in, but for me, Wolves playing at Goodison was an away banker for sure. I just find Everton extremely frustrating, and I don't think they're going to get any better. And they are probably overall where I see it, they're not a top six side. They're nowhere near being a top six side, and they're such a huge club with such a tradition. And if you look, some of the players they've got, they are just not performing. They are not performing at all, and something they'll have to give at some point. Something's going to have to give, but the issue I think they've got, just to sort of close this one down, is they chased after Marco Silva for so long when he was at Watford, and then when he left, and they had Sam Allardyce and all that went on. There's no way they can sack him after a year, after a season in charge, because they went
hunting for him, didn't they? And,
yeah, absolutely. But Wolves fully deserved to win that game. They were just so much the better team. Anyway, we'll move on. Yeah, I won't say anything on the other matches.
Cardiff, Bournemouth. We'll go through these last few quickly. The Cardiff Bournemouth game, obviously, probably
just tell me you don't agree with my Everton summary.
No, I agree. I totally agree. To be honest with you,
I don't know why I get so passionate about it. I don't follow them.
Wait for them to beat Tottenham later on in the season. And we'll see.
If they do, they'll be the best team ever.
Score a hat trick.
Yeah, probably.
Cardiff Bournemouth. You've got Everton on my mind now. Cardiff Bournemouth. A tough game for Cardiff in more ways than one. Obviously, after what's happened in the last sort of few weeks. But what happened to Bournemouth? How did they go from beating Chelsea to?
Yeah, I think I don't know. They just looked a completely different side. I think. I mean, I'll echo what you said. I mean, fair play to Cardiff, the club, the fans, the city for what they've done as a tribute.
Yeah,
I mean, they've. I don't want to say. Oh, I'm not sure if it's the right thing to say that they've handled it really well, but it must have been an emotional game, and Bournemouth must have affected Bournemouth being involved
yeah,
in that sort of game. And I would just say fair play to the Bournemouth fans, because I've heard quite a lot of them say that if there was a game that they were going to lose to and they didn't really, they're not going to sort of gripe about it. It was that game
no.
because of the meaning behind it,
I
and
think
that's a
it
fair
was.
play to them. But I know Neil Warnock got a bit emotional,
Yeah,
but it was a
so it
good
was
win for Cardiff. And if you look at it purely from a footballing point of view,
three
that's
points.
that's
No,
that's what
that's
Cardiff are all about. They're fighters, and they they will have games like that where they'll just dig in and they'll get results, and you can't really criticise them in any way for it. Really, I think they deserve the 3 points, and what's happened's absolutely terrible. And
yeah.
but it doesn't make me want them more, because I'd like to see them stay up anyway, because
No,
I do like
I think their
Cardiff. And
fans. I think they got one of the best fan bases in the league.
yeah,
To be honest
and
with you,
they're the ones that are fighting. I think they've got more fight than Huddersfield and Fulham have, and I
definitely,
think that shows in the results they're getting.
definitely. So the Leicester Man United game. Are Man United going to lose again this season? they
Yeah,
they are
I
playing
think
some really good football at the
they
moment,
are. I
but
think
Leicester had some really good chances in this game. Now I think Leicester will actually come out of this game thinking that they probably should have got something from it.
I would absolutely agree. The game was summed up for me by the goal. It was just that little bit of class. I mean, Pogba's ball was
It was
amazing.
well,
Rashford's first touch, and then the finish. That it was 1-0, and I know it sounds obvious, but that was the difference in the game. It was just that little bit of quality. The thing that gets me with Leicester is, and I like Claude Puel. I don't think he's necessarily a bad manager, but uh, I think they need another striker. I don't think Jamie Vardy is effective up front on
no,
his own. I think he's so isolated. Um, and I think that's one of their downfalls at the moment. I think they need. I did hear someone say that Leicester have historically played with a big man, small man up front. Someone even suggested putting Harry Maguire up front. I'm not too sure about that, but
we missed a good
that.
chance at the end. I didn't
Well,
think it was
but
Harry
yeah, he
Maguire.
did. Yeah, he did. But I just think United, they may well keep it up to the end of the season. I'd be surprised if they did. But it was that little bit of class that was just the difference between the two
Um,
teams, really.
Matic and Mendy sent off, maybe, possibly. Both I thought had some quite harsh tackle. I know Matic's first one as well was probably worth at least a yellow, if not a red. But I think they both should have been sent off. But
There seems to be
and
always red card incidents at Leicester.
yeah. All right, Man City, Arsenal. I think if you were the Arsenal manager, you'd be absolutely fuming at how this game started. I think when you were away to Man City, I think the last thing he probably would have said to them before they went out, just keep it tight for at least 20 minutes.
But that's not what Arsenal do.
44 seconds into the game and they're 1-0 down. It was just
Everything points to the
terrible.
same thing. It's their defense. Their defense
Arsenal's defense
is,
is awful, and we
and
lost to this team as well. And that's what's more infuriating than anything is that.
but it's been bad for a while.
Yeah, I know.
I read an article today where it said Arsenal fans are worried that Spurs are going to overtake them and be the bigger and better club. And someone commented on it, and I completely agree with it, and said, "Hasn't that happened already?"
Yeah, I was about to say there's not.
I mean,
I don't think that. I
I
wouldn't
don't know how
say
many seasons
Tottenham.
it is, but we've been finishing above Arsenal regularly for at least like the last 2 or 3 seasons, I think.
I think City could have easily been 4-5-6 up at half time, literally, because they had so many chances. I think Lennon made a good few saves, but I just for me, I like you said, out of the three teams, I know Chelsea's defending isn't great, but Arsenal just seem to be on another level when it comes to
Yeah,
defending.
I think Arsenal as a whole club or a team are just summed up by the Ozil and Ramsey situations at the moment, where
Ramsey's going, isn't he? He's already
Yeah,
he
but I
signed a
just
contract
think
for Juventus.
all the gossip in January was that they wanted Ozil out to free up the wage budget, and he's not even playing him, and he's I think he's one of the top 2 or 3 highest paid players in the league,
Mm.
and he's not even playing. There seems to be a big split between the Arsenal fans that some love him and some want him to go, and then you've got Ramsey who, from what I've seen of him, he wears the shirt with pride. He fights for that club. He
Yeah,
gives his all in every game.
but he
But
is leaving.
yeah, he is leaving.
He's
And
going.
if it's down to money, that's fine. And maybe that's why they
I
wanted to
don't.
get
I don't
Ozil
think
off the wage
Ramsey.
bill, because
I don't think.
apparently they haven't offered him enough money, and Juventus are going to offer him a load of money in wages because they're not paying a transfer fee, and I don't blame him for going, to
I
be
don't blame him
honest.
for
But
going either.
if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be fuming. I think I'd be
I think.
fuming. I think
I think you'd be. I think you're right. I think they'd rather see Ozil leave than Ramsey.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Obviously, Man City they get the 3 points. Arsenal slip up, and obviously Man United overtake them. So interesting. Anyway, Monday night's game was West Ham Liverpool, and obviously Liverpool dropped some more points. So everyone is
I
happy
think
with
the
that.
pressures get into Klopp
You know,
personally.
the
I think the
first goal's
pressures get
offside.
into him.
The Liverpool goal's
Yeah, it was
offside.
miles offside.
I
It was
don't know
miles
how.
offside. But
Didn't see
but
it, but
I
good finish.
think if I was a Liverpool fan going away to West Ham on a Monday night, and we know how inconsistent West Ham would have been, I would have been extremely nervous. I think that
But
before the game, if you'd said you can take a point, you probably would have taken that, because I think that West Ham are the sort of team that they turned Arsenal over at home. They beat United. They could have easily beat Liverpool. That's 2 games in a row now they've drawn 1-1 Liverpool,
yeah,
and whatever you can kind of spin it whatever way you want, but I think there was a bit of an argument with was it with Pellegrini and Klopp on the sideline. There was a bit of
yeah,
a lot of sort of paper talk afterwards and stuff. I think the pressure's getting to them. I think they're not playing the same sort of football that they've been playing. It's like the Leicester game. I mean, there was talk afterwards about they were blaming the pitch because it had snow on it.
yeah.
I
That was
mean,
what Klopp said.
these are professional footballers that get paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a week, and I just find that quite strange that they've been. If you think back to when they played City, if they'd won that, they would have been 10 points clear. Now City being 1 up tonight, if that continues, they're on equal points.
And City have
Sort
got the
of
better goal difference as well.
November, December, a bit of snow on the pitch wouldn't have hampered Liverpool at all. But now suddenly it's not an well, you might say it's an excuse,
Yeah.
but now it seems to be an issue. I really think
Different
the
though,
pressure's
mate.
getting to them.
January snow. It's different sort of
Oh
snow.
yes, it is. Yeah, it's completely different.
I totally agree. I think there's a lot of hype around them winning the league, and you'd have to say that each team, at least at some part in the season, are going to have a few results in a row where they're not the best. Each team seems to have one little blip each season, and Liverpool really haven't had theirs yet up until the last sort of couple games. So it'd be interesting to see what happens and whether he changes the team at all, because obviously he does rely heavily on the same sort of front,
Yeah, no,
three.
I
But
think the only one of those 3 that's even been consistently performing is Mane. I think
yeah,
Firmino's gone off the boil a bit. I think Salah's gone off the boil a bit.
Salah's
I
a
think
strange one, isn't he? Because sometimes in games he's on a different level, but then sometimes you just don't. If you, it seems to be if you mark him well enough, then he does seem to struggle. So
yeah, I agree with you. And the thing is, so I think they've got Bournemouth next. I think it's at Anfield. But
yeah,
if they had got 3 points from the Leicester game and 3 points from the West Ham game, you would have Liverpool as a home banker to beat Bournemouth, even though they did turn Chelsea over. But I reckon there's going to be some real nervousness at that game. There'll be a lot of nervousness from the fans, and
a different atmosphere from
if that radiates onto the pitch and it starts affecting the players, I think if Bournemouth, if it's sort of a bit of a cagey first half and it's 0-0 or it's a draw at half time, and then as the clock ticks that Liverpool aren't performing, I can see it all falling apart.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd love it to, and I'd love Spurs to come straight through the middle and win the league. I'd take second at the moment, to be honest, but it's interesting. It's interesting.
So that is the Premier League review. So we're going to move straight on to the EFL leagues. First up is Rich with the Championship.
Yeah, so in the Championship over the weekend, Norwich are now top of the table after beating the previous leaders Leeds 3-1 away, which is a cracking result for Norwich. So they're now level on points at the top. Norwich are actually ahead on goal difference by 2 goals, which is strange because they won that game by 2 goals. So that's put them top. Both teams have 57 points. Leeds have now lost 3 of their last 5 games, while Norwich are unbeaten during the same period. Very inconsistent Leeds. They seem to win 3 or 4 and then start dropping points. Sheffield United, Middlesbrough and Bristol City all won at the weekend and are currently in the playoffs. Bristol City are now up to 6th after their 5th win in a row, and they go into the playoffs at the expense of Derby, who dropped to 7th after a 0-0 draw away at Preston on Friday. West Brom are the other side in the playoffs, and they lost 3-2 at home to Middlesbrough over the weekend. And I think they were leading that game. So really good win for Middlesbrough. At the bottom, none of the bottom 5 won. Ipswich are still rock bottom, and they lost 1-0 at home to Sheffield Wednesday in Steve Bruce's first game as Wednesday manager. And they're now 8 points from safety, so looks a bit of a struggle now for Ipswich. Bolton lost 2-0 away at Sheffield United, and Reading, who make up the final relegation place, they got a point in a 0-0 draw at home to Villa. Game of the day had to be at Brentford versus Blackburn. So after 7 or 8 minutes, Blackburn were 2-0 up, but then Brentford came back and won 5-2 in the end. So there was some Blackburn fans saying it was going so well. So Blackburn stay in 11th, and that win lifts Brentford up to 17th. In League One, so Luton stretched their lead at the top to 6 points after a 3-0 win away at Shrewsbury. It was their 4th win in a row. Barnsley are now up into 2nd. They beat Scunthorpe 2-0. Portsmouth have dropped to 3rd in the table after leading for such a long time. They only managed a 1-1 draw at home to Doncaster, so no winning 4 now for Pompey. Sunderland were the only team in the playoffs to win. They beat Wimbledon 1-0 at home. Charlton and Peterborough both lost. But Sunderland have got 3 games in hand on leaders Luton. So if they were to win all 3 of those games, they will go level on points. At the bottom, all the teams in the bottom 4 failed to win. It was only Oxford and Bradford who managed to get a point. Shrewsbury and Wimbledon, the bottom 2, they both lost. But there's only 4 points which separate Shrewsbury in 23rd and Rochdale in 18th. So it's pretty tight at the bottom. There's quite a few teams involved. Wimbledon, they do look doomed, which is a bit of a shame, really, after their FA Cup exploits. They're 9 points from safety, so not looking good for them. And it was a bit quiet in League One, to be honest. There was only 2 games in the whole division that had over 2 goals in. So not the most exciting of games, I'm afraid. So that's Championship and League One.
So League Two, we did have quite a few postponements. So there were only 7 games at the weekend. And we'll start off with top side Lincoln, who actually drew away to bottom side Notts County. So Notts County getting a fairly good point there as well after they were leading in that game as well. But Mansfield are the informed team at the moment in League Two. They beat Macclesfield, so not a great result for Sol Campbell. They won 3-1. Mansfield, the informed team at the moment, and are only 2 points off top place now. So they've literally come from nowhere. They've not lost in their last 5 either. Bury in third. They picked up a point against Crawley. And also Forest Green and Carlisle did not play at the weekend. They are 4th and 5th. MK Dons still struggling at the moment. They lost Exeter by 3-1. MK Dons are still 6th, but rapidly sliding down that table. Exeter, who beat them, are actually in 7th. So, as I said, Notts County at the bottom, they got a good draw against Lincoln. Macclesfield 23rd. They lost 3-1 as well. So it's pretty close at the bottom now. So obviously, apart from Notts County, who are rock bottom, Macclesfield on 27, Morecambe 29, Yeovil 30. Yeovil did actually play at the weekend. They lost to Stevenage by a goal to 0.
And they also lost last night. They played last night. They lost 1-0, didn't they, to Cheltenham?
They did, yes.
They did. Sorry.
It
was going so well a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. The thing was Cheltenham were just above Yeovil as well, so they've moved on forward now. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be close, as to say this. But you love your goal differences.
I love my goal differences.
So Yeovil have actually only got a goal difference of -6. Compared to Morecambe, who are just below them, we've got -17. Macclesfield -21 and Notts County -30. So all things
that's worth a point. That's worth a point.
And just to mention, obviously Newport County obviously knocked out Middlesbrough last night in the FA Cup. They did lose 3-0 at the weekend to Grimsby, but I'm sure all will be forgiven after that one. And did you hear about the Newport County goalkeeper?
Yes, I was just about to say that to you. Yeah,
and
his wife had given birth to twins.
Yeah, she'd already given birth, so he legged it. So yeah, but fair play to them for beating Middlesbrough. And
yeah, I agree.
The incentive now is that they're going to be playing Man City at home. So money.
Money.
Just looking at FA Cup draw now, like at least four of the teams are going to be outside outside the Premier League potentially going through.
That's what the cup's all about.
So very good. Anyway, that is all we've got time for on part 1. When we come back in part 2, we're going to go through a couple of the transfers. We're going to do our special topic this week is the January transfer window, which unfortunately is not going to take too long because we had dry January on the transfer market. So yeah, so we'll be back with you in part 2.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of View from the Sideline podcast. Before we go into our special topic this week, which is a short summary of the January transfer window, we're just going to give you a quick update on the predictions challenge. So no change at the top. Jamie's still ahead on 30. We had James as the guest last week. We only managed to get 5 points, but I only managed to get 5 points for the last couple of weeks. So I've had a couple of bad weeks.
I'm on fire at the moment.
Yeah, you've shot right back up the table, Chris, back up into 4th. So I just want to get above 16 as an average. Neither of us seem to be able to get out of that 15.
I was at 14 for a bit. So
this week we've got my brother-in-law Scott is the guest predictor for this week. Now, the way the table's going at the moment, so my other brother-in-law Jamie is top and my father-in-law Pete is second. So if it goes to form, Scott's going to either be in first, second or third. So
any news on your bet from last week, Rich? Any update on that? I've not seen.
No. He's actually away. He's away at the moment, so there hasn't been any. But I'm going to honour it. I'm definitely going to honour it.
We'll keep reminding you.
And
as
you
just
should.
Want to see you scream. Really, to be honest with you, it's just going to make my day. That I think you should have to do it wearing a Chelsea shirt as well.
It won't take much to make me squeamish when it comes to eating. It could be like an onion, and I'd be in trouble. So that's where we are with predictions. We'll get the matches up online in the next day or so, probably with the links for this episode actually, and then we'll be posting the results after the matches at the weekend. So we'll go into January transfer window, Chris. If you want to start us off.
So, not a great deal's happened in this. One of the worst January transfer windows I think we've seen for a long, long time. And I know we shouldn't condone millions being spent, but you look down the list of these Premier League teams, it's loan. It's just loan. It's just loads of loan. Like Huddersfield, they've signed someone from Spurs I've never even heard of, Jaden Brown. Have you ever heard of Jaden Brown?
Oh, he's the future. He is the future, mate.
That's why he's at Huddersfield.
He is going to. You watch now. He's going to keep them up.
Huddersfield are preparing for Championship because they also bought Charlton Athletic player and have loaned Jason Punchin, but that wasn't the ones I was going to go through. So the first one, Denis Suarez from Barcelona to Arsenal, is a loan signing. Another midfielder for them. I don't know if I think that they should have strengthened it in their defence. Personally, I don't see what Denis Suarez is going to bring to them personally.
Well, I did read part of that is around Ozil and Ramsey. I don't know whether it's a loan with a view to a permanent deal. And I know he played under Emery at Sevilla, but I've heard a lot of mixed reports about him. There's a lot of pundits that watch a lot of Spanish football. Some say that he's really good, and some say that there's a reason Barca have let him go because he's. I've not seen a lot of him personally, but
the thing is,
he played against City, didn't he? He came off the bench against City, I think.
I think if you play for Barcelona and you're getting loaned out, I think they clearly don't see, something in him enough for him to stay at the club. Because Barcelona, they've probably got their starting 11, pretty set. But if he can't even get on the bench, then that's probably saying something. But I just thought that they should have bought something in their defence, really. Next one was I'm going to talk about is Dominic Solanke. So this is the guy that left Chelsea because he wasn't.
We are scraping the barrel. If we're talking,
I've highlighted this one because he left Chelsea to go to Liverpool because he wasn't getting game time, and he thought he wasn't going to get it, so he thought, I'll go to Liverpool. Clearly didn't get the game time because now he's at Bournemouth. So I don't really understand why Bournemouth have signed him. I can understand, they got Nathaniel Klein in as well on loan, which is a good signing for them.
Has Solanke signed or on loan?
An undisclosed fee.
So they have signed him.
Yeah,
I
can't see him getting into the team. I just don't.
But he's the sort of player that's got promise. But I mean, maybe they're preparing for Wilson to go in the summer or something like that. I mean, the Klein for me was a really good signing for Bournemouth. I think he's a decent player, and I think he'll make a difference there. I know there was a lot of talk because he was due to go to Cardiff, etc. But I think he's because he wasn't near the end or he wasn't on deadline. Well, there wasn't really a lot on any deadline day, but he's one that's kind of slipped under the radar. I think he'll do well at Bournemouth.
Also, you got Peter Crouch joining Burnley, which I think some people would have been surprised by because obviously it was Vokes, wasn't it, that they let go the other way. So, I can understand why they've signed him. He's helped teams before in the Premier League by getting goals. So you can see why they've signed him. His age.
But I think that the whole penalty against Southampton in the last minute is why they've signed him.
Yeah.
If you, I don't want to promote other podcasts, but the Peter Crouch podcast is definitely worth a listen.
Very good. Yeah,
it's a very good podcast. But if you look at any of the Stoke teams, the sort of starting 11 this season, apart from a few cup games, Crouchy always comes on in the last 10 or 15 minutes.
to get.
And that's sort of he will do the same. He will do the same sort of thing for Burnley. And I think that with Burnley having Vokes and Wood and Barnes, I mean, I think they're all quite similar players. And I know they're sort of old-fashioned, sort of big burly centre forwards. I know Peter Crouch gives you something different, but I completely agree. It's great to see him back in the Premier League. I love Peter Crouch.
We mentioned earlier about Batshuayi. It was one thing that Palace did need. And they also re-signed Bakary Saka as well from West Brom. So they've re-signed him back. So they've bought 2 strikers there.
I'm just sorry, Chris, I've just got to go back to Dominic Solanke. So Sky News are reporting he went for 19 million.
19 million?
That's what Sky Sports have reported. Bournemouth for 19 million. That seems a lot.
Liverpool would be happy
that seems a lot. Yeah.
Jeez.
But anyway.
So Batshuayi, I think he's the type of he's probably a bit similar to Benteke, but Batshuayi he's scored a few goals for Chelsea when he's had the chance.
I think that's
a good signing.
That's the signing. That's the signing of the window for me. Without a doubt, that's the signing of the window.
So that was it'll be good for Palace, and I know he's only on loan, but they might. It's probably with a view to actually signing him. I would have thought. I think he's the sort of player that they probably need. So we'll have to see how he gets on. And the other signings, so we've got Pulisic joining Chelsea, but he hasn't actually joined until the end of the season. So he was the most expensive player bought in this transfer window in the Premier League, and he hasn't even joined the club yet. It kind of sums up the transfer window, really, doesn't it? The highest fee paid for a player, he hasn't actually joined the club that's bought him, basically. So, and obviously the other one, Higuain, which we got a glimpse of, I think, what he can do on Saturday, and I'm quite excited by Higuain. I think a few pundits have said that he is someone that Chelsea have needed for.
Sorry, Chris, I'm just going to stop you. Man City have just gone 2-0 up.
Oh, that must be nearly finished.
They're 8 minutes into stoppage time. Sorry to interrupt, but
That's
just
right.
Top of the league.
So Higuain to Chelsea, but really that's it.
Well, I'll tell you the one that you haven't mentioned, and I don't know a lot about him, but it was Newcastle signing. Now, excuse my pronunciation, Miguel Almiron.
So he's the one from
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of talk about him. A lot of sort of South American football experts, because he's from Paraguay, saying that he's the best sort of football export to come out of Paraguay for a long, long time. Honestly, the only other one I can think of is Roque Santa Cruz, but he was a good player.
Struggling with another.
I think it's more the fee they've paid for him. So it's around 21 million. So there's 2 points. So one, it's broken Newcastle's record transfer fee.
Was it Michael Owen before?
Yeah, absolutely. So, although Mike Ashley seems to want to buy up every failing business on the high street, he sort of has put his hand in his pocket for this. Now, I think the proof will be when this lad starts playing, and then you can properly judge him. Atlanta in the MLS are one of the top teams. They've sort of risen from when the franchise was started.
They won the MLS, didn't they? They won the
MLS
Cup,
I think they did. And there's something to be said about that. Whatever your view on the MLS is, the Premier League is a completely different animal. So how he's going to get on over here, it remains to be seen. But I think it's a good thing that it shows that Newcastle, especially for the fans, they do have that bit of ambition, if you want, to go out and spend that sort of money on people. I'm not sure whether this guy is going to wear the number 9 or not, but if he does, there'll be an awful lot of pressure on him. But I hope he does well. I mean, he looks a decent player.
Yeah.
But like I say, the Premier League is completely different. But to be honest, that's probably the one that stuck out most for me, because I'd never heard of this guy. I don't know whether many other people had, and I think we live in a world with football where 21 million probably isn't even a punt on a player anymore.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I think if you spend 30, 35 million, that's sort of your bracket, where 21 million doesn't seem a lot for a striker these days. But we'll see. We'll see how he gets on. The other one as well. I was surprised of too. Just quickly, and I think it kind of almost went under the radar. Well, there's two actually. So one was Nkudu from Spurs, who just got back into the team. And so he's gone out to Monaco, and was Cedric Suarez from Southampton. So he's gone to Inter Milan on loan, but he's the Portuguese guy, isn't he? That won the Euros with them. He was sort of not that long ago. He was their best player by a mile, and he's gone out on loan. And I was just a little bit surprised about that. They've also sent a player to Yeovil, Chris. Do you know that?
Who's that? Sorry.
Ryan Seeger has gone from Southampton to Yeovil.
Yeah, they've signed him, haven't they, for free? They got him on a free.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. He has played for Yeovil before.
Everybody's played for Yeovil.
He's been on loan at Yeovil before.
Oh, I'm surprised. Did you sign Higuain from Yeovil on loan?
Well, it's funny now. Not quite. Yeah. Anyway, that was this week's short-ish special topic. Hopefully in the summer we might have a few more transfers to talk about. But
yeah, I hope so.
The teaser, Rich.
Yeah, now
which two Premier League clubs failed to score in this season's FA Cup?
Yeah, now I'm glad I've had a bit of time to think about this because my first answer, but this isn't an official answer, was going to be Spurs because for some reason I thought that Palace Spurs was in the third round, but it wasn't. It was the fourth round. And it clicked with me that we beat Tranmere 7-0, I think it was.
You did score a few goals in that game.
Yeah, so I do actually know this.
You scored the most in the FA Cup from the third.
Yeah, go on then. I expect so. I do actually know this, and I do remember the games because I didn't, because I paid a lot of attention to the FA Cup, and they didn't strike me as being upsets, although with regards to the teams that they were playing against in lower leagues, it was an upset. So I know that one was Cardiff because they lost to Gillingham.
Correct.
1-0, if memory serves me. And the other one, because the FA Cup the third round was spread over 4 days. And I think this one was on a Monday night. And it was Huddersfield. And they lost to Bristol City, I think. I think that was 1-0 as well.
Yeah, that's correct. It is Cardiff and Huddersfield. Yes. Score in this season's FA Cup. So,
I do remember those. Right. I do remember those games.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well done.
Thanks.
Thanks. You get nothing but well done.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Man City have won. So Man City are now back to the top of the league. Jesus got the second goal in the 7th minute of stoppage time. So that takes City up to first and puts Everton in 9th. And they're away at Watford. Oh, that would be awkward, wouldn't it? They lost to Watford and then he got sacked. I'm going to be positive about Watford. I'm going to be positive about Watford next week. I promise. About Everton, sorry.
All right.
I'll be
Come
positive
with at least
about
positive
them.
thing to say.
I will.
All right, so that is it for this week. Anything else, Rich?
No, nothing from me.
No. So we will see you again next week.